Hello, everybody. Now, this is another episode. This is the fourthperiod.com episode that my friend Jake Wakely has sent me via Messenger. So, this is going to be something that's written by a professional writer in the NHL. And this is going to be about who is looking into who, supposedly for the upcoming trade deadline in 14 days and counting. So, without further ado, our first candidate is Evander Kane, the left winger from Buffalo. Buffalo is not doing any good like they usually do. They're rebuilding, and it is believed that the St. Louis Blues, the Anaheim Ducks, the Boston Bruins, the San Jose Sharks, the Predators, the Vegas Golden Knights, Tampa Bay Lightning, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New Jersey Devils, and the LA Kings. Now, for those who are more familiar with Evander Kane, remember that he played out in Winnipeg, also used to be known as the Atlanta Thrashers. This is that team he used to play for, the Winnipeg Jets 2.0. Now he's been property for a short time in Buffalo, and so he's produced a lot of points with them. He's been scoring goals and assists. Now, with Jack Eichel being the guy who is the anchor man, well, not the Will Ferrell guy, I mean the man anchoring the team. So, Evander Kane is starting to, produce more, but Buffalo's out of a playoff spot, so they're really not making any sort of comeback. I honestly see a team like Nashville maybe making an offer. LA is still in it. They're still hanging in tight. If you look at it, the West can be a little bit of a funny picture, but if you're looking at the Metropolitan Division, you're looking at a team like the New Jersey Devils, who are in the wild card, and they're also competing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Penguins have plenty of veteran experience in scoring. The thing is, with Connor Sheary out, it looks like they might try for a guy like Kane, but I'm also going to check his contract to see how much time he has left, because most of the time other teams usually go for free agent rentals, because these guys usually have 1 year on them. But I'm going to Cap Friendly to confirm the contract status of Mr. Evander Kane. And so, just looking up right now, and per Cap Friendly, right now, Evander Kane is a free agent of 2018-2019. So what that means is July 1st, 2019, Evander Kane is going to be looking for some nice extra cash. I honestly, Ray Shero usually never makes a rental, so I would like to think if Ray is considering Evander Kane, I do not acquire him at the deadline or at the draft. I'd rather get him in free agency if he does not get traded, or if he does and doesn't resign with that team. That's the only time I get Evander Kane. So, the Boston Bruins, I do not expect them to make a move for Mr. Kane, because they've been very consistent, and of course, I like to think that the Tampa Bay Lightning really don't make a move for him, because they have a really good four lines that can reproduce every night with the chemistry they have, and Stamkos being healthy and Point being a fast skater, he can still produce really good. And you can see why he was one of the best skaters in the fastest skater competition. So, without further ado, I tend to think a team like Nashville or St. Louis ends up pushing the button a little quicker on a guy like Evander Kane. But the next guy is Mr. Mike Hoffman. Now, Ottawa is in a very, very, very negative spot right now. And it is believed, as per the fourth period, that the St. Louis Blues again, the Florida Panthers, the Oilers, the Sharks, the Bruins, the Flames, the Sabres? Really? A team that should be selling, inquiring for Mike Hoffman. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes, seriously? I mean, I know the division's tight in the Metropolitan, but wouldn't you rather want to build from within if you're Carolina? Draft, develop, start your own core. Now, New Jersey can make a move for a guy like Hoffman, especially being in that wild card spot. But if I am someone, or I'm a GM, I tend to think a team like, I would say, Calgary would probably move for him. But New Jersey has that extra cap space, and that's just not me being a homer. It's me being the cap-friendly guy right there. So I can actually tell you what other teams' cap spaces are. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how people can take on a $5.1875 million contract like Mike Hoffman's. And New Jersey has plenty of cap space for a guy like Hoffman, but I can double check Mike Hoffman's contract to see if it's going to be worthwhile or not. Now, as Cap Friendly shows me, there's only a little over $1 million US for the Ottawa Senators, and Mike Hoffman is a free agent by 2020-2021 season. So he is locked up for a while. So that will also make him very attractive, as well as he can shoot the puck. And, he had a couple of points the other night versus New Jersey. So, a guy like that can shoot on the power play is definitely worth, his grain of salt. Okay, now Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Defensemen come very rarely like this. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson on a very negative playing, not so positive. I would want to be part of a team like Arizona Coyotes. They named their team a couple of times already. They changed the name. Leave it as it is. So the Arizona Coyotes don't have a money problem because they have $16,777,167 in cap space. Now, they are above cap floor, but they choose not to quite reinvest that money right away. Now, if someone's going to get Oliver Ekman-Larsson, they're going to have him until 2019-2020. Now, a guy like Larsen is a left-handed defenseman. And so he's 26 years old. The most you could ever give a guy that's not your own grown player is 7 years. So if you gave him, let's say, 7 years more by the time his contract expires, you're probably looking at, let's say, he's basically 26 right now. He'll be 29, so you're looking about like 36 years old tops. So within the last couple of years, he's probably still going to be a above average defenseman, still better than Andy Green or any other defenseman. I know Char is an exception, but Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a really good player, and there's not many other guys I would give that much money to if I'm a general manager. And if a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson produces for any NHL team that acquires him at the trade deadline or at the draft, you're going to be happy that you don't have to wait several years or 6 years to develop a defenseman and hope they turn out to be a stud. You know, it's like not having to go back in time, but that player comes out very well. So right now the average cap hit for Mr. OEL is $5.5 million. Yep, he's a really good player. I just think that a guy like him deserves to be on a better team with a lot of upcoming talent. And a guy like Nicholas Hjalmarsson is probably going to get moved. So, yeah. And Jacob Chychrun's going to probably take over the defensive corps because the kid's only 19 and he's going to be 22 by 2019 if I stand corrected. Anyways, I'm going to look on to the next player, which would be Tomáš Vanek, the Austrian forward who plays left wing and right wing. He's had a very successful year so far in Vancouver, and I can double check that he has been making a cap hit of $2 million, 33 years old, not bad. Some people say he's overrated. I think he's a really good bottom six player, at least. He's someone that you can rely on, you know, in case if someone like Jimmy Hayes can't perform or someone else like that. But other teams believe to be interested are Boston, LA, the Penguins, the Ducks, the Blues, the Sharks, the Devils, and the Blue Jackets. Now, there is going to be a lot of bidding. And if Vancouver doesn't get what they want in return for Mr. Vanek, I would have to say he would probably get dealt either on draft day or by, you know, whatever timetable suits their GM the best in Vancouver. So, Mr. Vanek, yeah, his contract is 2018-2019 offseason, so it looks like they're going to try and trade him as soon as possible before they lose him for nothing. And Tomáš Vanek, well, according to Cap Friendly, he's 34 years old. I would have to say, let's see, Vanek has made 38 points already in 56 games versus last year. So he's got 16 goals and 22 assists. So either way, he's going to eclipse last year's record better. So a guy like him can bring a lot of experience. I mean, he's played for Buffalo before, but he's been playing in international tournaments for quite a while for Austria. So he's not someone who's flashy, but he's someone who reminds me of an older version of Brian Gibbons. Someone who can produce at a bottom six role. But this guy can definitely, help a team in a pinch. So now to the next team, Erik Goodbranson. It says all signs point to the Canucks trading Erik Goodbranson by the deadline. He's a UFA at the season's end and doesn't look to be in Vancouver's future plans, especially after they tried to trade him before the season started. So apparently we have two new teams interested in the deadline right now. So you have the Dallas Stars, who are hanging in there, and you have the high-flying Washington Capitals. And you also have the New Jersey Devils, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, and the LA Kings. Now, the Bruins probably will make a minor move, and if it does, it's probably Goodbranson. But I honestly think if the Maple Leafs are trying to improve their defense, they're probably going to get Erik Goodbranson. But if I'm Ray Shero and if I had to do a minor defensive player, maybe you get Goodbranson for the right deal, but you're not going to want to risk it. And apparently, the next one, Jack Johnson of the Columbus Blue Jackets. There's only two teams believed to have interest in Jack Johnson. Now, we're going to double check Columbus because Columbus is, still in it to win it, between that playoff spot. So they are trying to, sneak up on the Devils and the Flyers, and it's a seesaw division. So you look at Jack Johnson. He's 31 years old, but I do not like his contract. But if the Columbus Blue Jackets want to split his salary with the New Jersey Devils, that would be very interesting. But I also think maybe Dallas wants him a little bit more because they too are in a playoff spot, and it's only going to be a matter of time when the price goes up a little higher or there's a little bit more finagling going on. And if you look at Dallas, they've been giving up almost 6 goals a game, it feels like, every time I look at the score ticker. And obviously Bishop has been getting lit up along with Lettinen and net, and just it's not been a great year for them. And apparently, we're going to move across to the pond in the Hudson. Nick Holden of the New York Rangers is a UFA at the season end, and with the Rangers presumably looking to sell off their pending free agents, he could be on the move by February 26th, which is the deadline. You have, again, the Devils and Dallas Stars. You have the Capitals and the LA Kings. Now, these teams are all fighting for someone to improve their defense. But what's going to happen? I think it's going to come down to the last week of the trade deadline, and by the time I'm going out to California on vacation, I bet I'm going to see my notifications on Twitter go off when Holden either does or doesn't get traded, because I'll be looking at the trade tracker. So I think the Rangers GM Jeff Gorton isn't going to be open to trading with Ray Shero, because Shero is very precise and he knows when to really make that move. But Dallas seems to have pull off trades when we aren't even expecting, kind of like that Ben Bishop trade. But I think the Capitals would like to have getting their hands on him within the division, but the LA Kings seem like a safer pick. But I think LA and Dallas have leverage because they aren't within the division, and therefore it'd be like trading with the enemy, if you know what I'm saying. That's what I have for now, but it is going to be a very steady trade deadline, as Bob McKenzie says on TSN. He's the NHL insider. I would say listen to Bob McKenzie's podcast, and it's pretty interesting. I would say whether you listen to podcasts or not, or you just YouTube like I do, but Bob has the Bobcast, and you should actually listen in, because season 2, episode 11, he does do like each and every 31 teams talking about their needs and wants. Now, I'm not being paid by Bob McKenzie or anyone like that. It's just me having close contact with a friend of mine who happens to live in Ontario, and I happen to be in New Jersey, where I follow the Devils, and I also get a little bit of what the Rangers are thinking, and of course the Islanders, stuff like that. But I also have the NHL Network, so I'm always keeping eyes on what's going around on the league. But for those of you who are looking at a big trade coming on, I think the only big trade that will have happened this season was the Duchene deal that eventually is helping Colorado and Nashville, and not the Senators. And I used to really like Duchene when he played out in Colorado, but within the last few seasons in his contract with Colorado, he became more of a clubhouse cancer. And when I heard more and more each year about that going on, the more it became truth than it was a rumor. And it isn't a rumor, because you can see what's happening now with the Ottawa Senators. It took more than 11 games for Matt Duchene to get rolling. And honestly, I'm glad Ray Shero did not acquire or inquire on him to get his services, because I think he probably would have been making our team a lot more worse than we are now. I like to say this now, that tomorrow's game versus Philadelphia is going to be very important, but also 2 games in hand versus Carolina. And Carolina is a team that's trying to get back into it, but at the same time, they've had their fair share of goalie problems. Apparently, per Andrew Gross on Twitter, he's the guy that replaced Tom Giulitti when Giulitti left for NHL Regional to write for the Capitals most of the time. Andrew Gross put out today that Corey Schneider is going to be off for another week, basically trying to improve from that groin injury. So they did, however, the Devils brought up Nick Lapin, or some people say Lapin. I tend to say things a little bit more French. So Lapin is back in the Devils roster, and he's probably going to play one of those games. I wouldn't be surprised if Lapin plays on the 4th line, and the Devils probably have to sit Jimmy Hayes. I would like to see John Hines play John Quenneville. Now, from an eyes of a Devils fan and an eyes of a hockey guy, I honestly would like to see Coach Hines Play the younger forwards like Lappin and guys like Quenneville more often, because the other night when I was at the Devils versus Calgary game, I noticed in John Quenneville's game that he can pass and he has really good hockey IQ. It's just that Calgary was a pretty defensive team, and they were taking away the inches of room away from guys like Quenneville, who are really good shooters. Now, I know my friend up in Ontario is not a big hockey analytics guy. I do, however, trust in hockey analytics, because if you do have really great players, but you need to add the analytical part down to a science where you're going to create more scoring chances. So I'm going to make a little bit of a chart. You're probably not going to recognize it too well, and sorry if my art is not that great, but it is what it is. And I'm going to do my best to make it easier for some people. But anyways, I'm going to try and make like a blue line or whatever. Yeah. I'm more left-brained, so I apologize to any of my viewers if I insult their right brain mentality. Anyway, so here goes nothing. So with the guy, I'm going to do like X's and O's. So I apologize if my visual is not good enough for you. So I'm going to make a G/X for the goalie. I'm going to do I'm just going to do imaginary stuff for what I'm trying to prove. So all right. So up here I have the goal crease. And over here, I have the winger, I have a defender, I have another offenseman, like a winger, defenseman, stuff like that. Anyways, I'm going to pretend the guy on my left is Sami Vatanen making a pass. I'm going to do like a little hash mark thing, look like it's going to go over by the point. And now here's Quenneville. Quenneville is up here. So let's say that's Sami Vatanen. Let's say that's Will Butcher. Let's say that's Quenneville. Quenneville is a lefty, so he usually shoots on the right wing side. And I saw him play right wing that game. He didn't score, but he did put shots on net, and he did try his best. But guys like him who get chances are going to score from that low danger zone and that mid danger zone. And of course, when they play the slot, they play more up in here. I'll show you. Now let's move him over there. I'm just pretending this is in motion. So like here's our left wing, John Quenneville, moves over here, getting ready to shoot from the slot, rips it, net. Most of the time, goalie makes a save. Sometimes the save is a rebound, and the rebound might not go in. But that's why you have those net and mouse scrums. And this is why the game is very exciting. And I tell you, this is why guys like Brian Boyle do a really good job with guys who are really good shooters. And you got to be very physical down low. You got to make sure the goalies don't get set, and when they do get set, most of the time their eyes are locked in on the shooter, and most of the time they get that glove hand up and they steal it. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a tough race for the last few months of the season. And I wish best of luck to everyone who's still in the NHL playoffs. Whether you're the Devils, the Dallas Stars, the San Jose Sharks, the Winnipeg Jets, whoever you may be, may the best GMs win, and may the best teams build within the draft, and may the smartest trades make the smartest moves from today onward, because anything is inevitable. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.